Hey, welcome. This is Dan and Hans, and we usually are doing Bible study together, but today we're going to talk about Adult Day services in Culpeper. And we have mentioned this from time to time over the last year, but we really want to bring you into a deeper conversation about it because we're going to be asking the church from our leadership in the next few weeks to grant permission for us to move forward with Adult Day. So we wanted to kind of give you the backstory because we have been involved from the beginning of this, and I'm going to go way back first.
Okay.
So when we brought Hans on staff in 2016, you all know we did that in a partnership agreement with the Culpeper retirement community, who are, of course, our legacy relationship that we have with them. And the reason we did that was not because neither one of us had the money to do it. We had the money to do whatever we needed to do. But what we wanted was a senior adult minister who could connect with the community. And what the Culpeper wanted was a senior adult chaplain who could connect with the church. And so we were able to accomplish both those things. And Hans, and I think all of you all would just proclaim that this has been a great ministry addition to our church and to our community with Hans here. So you can put that in the comments section. But all that to say, when Hans got here, he started doing exactly what we had hoped he would do. He started connecting with the community. And I had been doing what I had been doing with connecting to the community in different ways. And the beauty, all that to say, the beauty of Adult Day is this converged one day when I got a call from one of my community connections saying, hey, would your church be willing to potentially host an Adult Day facility? And you had been in a different conversation where somebody was saying, we desperately need Adult Day in our community.
Right.
And it was just wonderful how the two things came together in providing an opportunity for us to have a conversation about Adult Day. Now, that was 2 years ago.
Yes. Yes.
We
This has
wanna
been
make
a
sure-
long process.
We want to make sure everybody understands this isn't something we started last week.
No.
So the first meeting we actually had with community leaders about Adult Day was at the Path Foundation's offices in Warrenton, because that's where they're based.
And we'd even been talking to some of the community leaders for a while before we got there.
Right, because your CLAC and all of that. And talk a little bit about CLAC and what that has been involved.
Okay, well, CLAC is a group that Pastor Brad Hales and I started, and we were trying to get to the community leaders and find out what we could get done. We
Right.
knew the needs in the community, and we were finding out from the seniors and some of the others what the needs were, but we just weren't able to get any traction. And so trying to get a group together to be able to get those leaders in the right room together to talk out how we can make some of these things happen.
Right.
And so that sort of put us in process of, okay, Adult Day is something that we don't have
Right.
here, and we need it.
Right, and it's also in the context, we'll see what the most recent census shows, but the growing demographic in Culpeper County
Yes.
is senior adults.
Right.
It's not any other demographic, and Brad Hales loves to say that a lot,
Yes.
and we all need to recognize that. So out of just not random community conversations, intentional community conversations, we ended up in the Path offices talking with other community leaders about what would it look like to start Adult Day. And so from that conversation, we had probably 2 or 3 more of those conversations. And then we said, well, hey, none of us really know what we're doing, right?
Right.
So we need to do a feasibility study. And the Path Foundation has been amazingly generous.
Yes, they have.
And they funded the feasibility study, and they funded a feasibility study, and they let our planning team pick the consultants. I mean, they gave the money. So we brought in some consultants to help us with the feasibility study. And one of the things that, because of COVID, they were only able to be on site that one time. They were here for a couple of days. But we brought in a pile of community leaders over those 2 days. We had them meet with everybody we could get in the room.
They went home tired.
Right. And everybody who came in the room said the same thing. When will y'all start?
Right.
Not, we were asking, they were asking,
Do we need it?
Do we need it? What would your response be to this? And they were like, no. When can you start?
Yes.
And so we got the feasibility done feasibility study back early summer of this year, and we've continued to meet with the planning team. And let's walk through who's on our planning team. It's Ellen Phipps from Aging Together. You and me. Amy Martin has jumped on in recent times in Child Development Center because of the intergenerational nature. Sarah Amos, who you all will meet with some other videos we're doing. Tell us how we got to Sarah.
Well, actually, Sarah showed up at one of the meetings, one of the community meetings that I happened to be at. And when I heard her start talking about what she was doing there at Cornerstone, I said, well, this is somebody we need to get to know a little better. And I came back and I asked you, did you know this individual? And you said, no, I've not heard of her. And so through the process of getting to know her, well, she really has a vision for where we're headed as well. And it has just worked out. Her connections, it was so funny. We had so many of the same connections, but had never met.
That's right.
And so it just sort of fell into place to have her come into this.
And like I said, you'll get to meet Sarah in some other videos. She's been a wonderful connection.
Yes.
Susie Waters is with the Community Services Board, has been a great asset into this planning meeting. And Ray Parks, who's with the Community Services Board, is really the reason any of us are at this table. Ray was the one who initiated the conversation. You and I just got it from two different places.
Ray was in the meeting where he brought it up, and then he had brought it up somewhere else that it got back to you. And so really he did start the ball rolling.
Right. And then we've also added Dr. Kathy Tompkins, who's from George Mason University in their social work area. And she's been great in terms of helping us understand the bigger context of Adult Day and how to really do it well.
Yes. Well, and talk about how excited she was. I mean,
when we reached out to her, and that we got her through our consultants, and we reached out to her, and she said, "Man, this is tremendous right here in our backyard. We'd love to give students to help make this happen." And so that's all part of the process we're in. That's really exciting, and our commitment really of the whole planning team. You and I have visited some adult day centers. We've virtually visited a lot because of COVID. And hey, everybody's got to do what they got to do. But you and I have walked away from some of those places and said, if that's what we're going to do, we're not going to do it. We want to do this at the top way we can do it. And we want somebody who can tell us whether we're hitting that or not. And Dr. Tompkins, with her expertise, is somebody who's going to be able to give us some quality control and give us a way to measure our success. So that's kind of how we've all gotten in the room. Let's talk about what we see as some of the needs of senior adults in our community. What's one of the most common things you all hear at CLAC?
Well, one of the things that we hear is that the seniors are isolated at home, and it's not just COVID. This was before COVID. They're isolated at home, and they need to be able to be together, and they can do that at the senior center to a certain degree. But once they get past the senior centers, and the senior center, most people don't realize this, but there's a certain point at which the senior center says, you or your family member, they tell you your family member can no longer come here because they need more support. And they may not be ready for the Culpeper, or they may not be able to afford the Culpeper. And so that in-between care is what we found that we really need and are lacking here. And it's one of the things I wanted to bring out was that the PATH Foundation is in Warrington. And their base and what they fund is mostly
primarily
in Warrington.
And Fauquier.
But they have been so interested in this that they've been willing to fund it outside of Warrington because they see the need.
That's right. I remember one of the CLAC meetings that I went to. I was surprised to hear our law enforcement people, and y'all done a great job of getting everybody in the room. Law enforcement saying one of their biggest calls is welfare checks on senior adults. The child lives in another state, and mom didn't answer the phone, grandma didn't answer the phone, and they want somebody to go check on them. And so we see this adult day as being a response to very firmly established needs in our community. And meeting some of their necessities that they have of life, of taking care of their parent and all of that. So that's kind of how we got to this. We're going to come back and do another session about what does it look like from here going forward? And we'll kind of break down Culpeper Baptist and what our engagement will look like for Adult Day. But we wanted to give you some background of how we even got to this conversation. So thanks for joining us today. Be sure to check us out on session 2 with Hans and I talking about Adult Day.